Hello, everyone. Today we're excited to meet you, and I'm excited to take an interview from one of the most accomplished young scholars in Uzbekistan, who is going to major in economics and who won International Economics Olympiad, namely silver medal, and Economics Olympiad, which is hosted in partnership with Westminster University. Um, Today we're going to be interviewing Humoyun Ibrohimov. Humoyun, welcome to our interview.
Thank you.
It's a very great pleasure to see you here. Yeah. First and foremost, like Humoyun, let's start with your background. What really pushed you into economics? Why do you like econ in general?
So, when I was in grade 10, like doing just econ and physics, I initially wanted to major in engineering instead of economics because at the end of grade 9 and before passing to grade 10, we were sent a form by our teachers to send them the list of subjects that we were gonna study for A levels in grade 10 and 11. And then I initially wanted to go with engineering because I thought I was into physics more until I picked up this book called Naked Economics by Charles Whelan. And then until that, economics was never like understandable to me. I could never understand anything. All these numbers and graphs seem so abstract and just kind of stupid to me until I realized that there are deeper meanings behind those graphs, and there are deeper numbers behind, like there are different meaning behind those numbers as well. And until that, for example, uh, people use the concepts of incentives to overcome the extinction of rhinos in Africa, and then the author was able to show how different economic concepts can like actually solve real life problems, and it's not just like elasticity of demand and elasticity of supply. It's just so much bigger than what we learn at school. And at that point, I felt like economics was something that I wanted to pursue. And then from that point onwards, I started to dig a deeper meaning behind different economics concepts, whether it be macroeconomics or microeconomics. And then after that, I decided to major in econ.
Well, that's an awesome story. You are also from Kashi Presidential School studying A levels. You already graduated, right?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. Like, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, Juan, you started Economics Olympiad in your 10th grade. And what was the one most unexpected thing that you learned for yourself while preparing for the International Economics Olympiad?
So, actually, when I was preparing for my second Olympiad with I started reading this book, which was the official book by the Olympiad organizers called Common Sense Economics. And then while reading the book, like everything at first seemed normal, like everything was in the A levels, but it had like more stories to make it more compelling. And then at one point, there was this thing called public choice theory, which I have never encountered before in my A level books. So I started reading about it. So it's basically applying economic concepts to political decision making. And then I could get a really different approach to like why don't up until that I used to think like why just don't presidents or like these policymakers just use this economic concepts to make our life better, like what's the hard thing? And then I found out that there's not only economic side to it, but there's also a political side to things. And then I realized the concept of policymaking is not that simple as I thought it was. And then as I started digging deeper and deeper, I actually like realize that economics does not really work when it comes to like political decision making, like depending on the country. But in most cases in democratic countries, it's more about popularity of the policy compared to its actual like economic benefits. And I after that, I felt like that was something that interested me. So I picked up this book called Brian Kaplan called Myth of Rational Voter, where he like fully explains all of these biases in voters, biases in policymakers, and then how like that economic decision making isn't really applied to political decision making. I felt like that was a whole new world that I accidentally discovered while preparing for my Olympiad.
Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. This is a very good background. How was the Olympiad process itself? Did you encounter a certain question that felt impossible at first, but then like something clicked in your brain and then you were able to solve that? How was the moment? Can you describe that? Your feelings? and
Uh,
takes on that issue if it
yeah,
happens
sure,
even.
sure. Uh, let me think. So, in Azerbaijan in International Economics Olympiad 25, the last question was something about monetary policy and expectations. I cannot fully remember the question, unfortunately, but I know that it was something along the lines of that. And at first, I was reading the question, and it's just like I couldn't understand like what's going on. So what happens is that in free response questions, you get 5 questions, and you should answer only 4 of them. You can actually skip one. So I initially thought I would skip this one because I didn't know what the question was asking me. And then after that, we just I was sitting there trying to find whether I was gonna answer 4 or I was gonna answer question 5. And then like suddenly I started remembering things from my Blanchard book. So Blanchard is a book for undergraduate students, and I have read some parts of it before my IEO examination, and it just started clicking to me, and I started like writing everything from that. So it's just kind of like unexpected thing that I very expected to happen.
So essentially, those were the books that carried you through the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Olympiad.
Basically this.
Wow. Uh, how was the preparation part though? You said you managed to read so many books, all at the same time while doing your A levels and doing ECs, preparing for colleges.
Mhm.
Did you ever feel like you burned out or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah?
So basically, like the Olympiad preparation for national stage was okay, but for international stage it was kind of hell because I had to juggle through like applications and like Olympiad preparation at the same time because I was in freshman's admissions program. So it was kind of like I was doing both, and then if you do both, it's kind of like you don't have proper time for either of them. So I had to skip like last few weeks of admissions program courses, and then uh before that, like I felt like I had to read so many books like Blanchard, and there was this book called CFA, and I felt like I wasn't like preparing enough. So I started like skipping sleeping at night to actually start preparing for that. And the thing is, when I actually went to the exam, I at some points I was like, okay, like this wasn't necessary because I felt like this is like too much. For example, for that question, I knew about this thing called expectations. So basically, in economics, there's this thing called expectations which affect inflation and unemployment. So at that question, I was like gonna answer like, should I write about expectations or like is it like too much? And I thought like it was too much, so I didn't write about it. And then when the answers actually came, I could see that there was a feedback on my answer. It said you should have talked about expectations, and I was like, damn, I should have talked about it. And then like I feel like I kind of felt overburdened, as you said, because the Blanchard itself is a very big and math heavy book. So it's just like the math behind every different economic models and economic concepts. And sometimes it makes sense, but at some points it just like assumes a lot of things about math itself, and then it kind of becomes like very vague what the Blanchard is talking about. So it was kind of a difficult period for me for international stage, but for national stage, I already led Mankiv. So Mankiv is less hard compared to Blanchard or CFA, so it was much easier for the national stage.
Awesome. Well, what kind of books would you recommend to people who are only starting out their Olympiad preparation journey? Let's say they're ninth grade or 10th grade, uh, from which books they could start and which books they can continue all over their journey of Olympiad.
Okay, so it depends on whether they're pursuing any kind of curriculum or not. So if they're pursuing like A levels or IPs or IBs, I would recommend them to just jump over to Mankiv and then like to Blanchard. But if a person is not doing any kind of curriculum, I would start. I would suggest them to start with common sense economics, and then do some kind of AP. Like go through. You don't. One does not have to necessarily take any AP courses, but just to go through the book itself to like solve questions and different to get a grasp of different concepts, and then move on to Mankiv. I feel like Mankiv is a must for everyone who wants to get some kind of a place, at least in the national stage. Like you cannot
Mhm.
avoid that, in my opinion, especially with in recent years, competition is becoming more and more intense. For example, when I was in grade 10, EFI Olympiad was the first time being held in Uzbekistan, and in grade
Mhm.
11, it was second time. And I could see that in second time it was like the competition was much harder compared to year one because more and more people are becoming aware of that, and more people are joining. So in order to have that competitiveness, you must have read Mankiv. And then on top of that, if you want, you can just do A levels, or if you really want to push yourself, you can even go like CFA book or Blanchard. But I would suggest you to start reading them once you are qualified for the international stage, unless it's just too much.
Okay, okay, okay. And you also mentioned the Common Sense Economics book, right? Was that
Mhm.
for EFI?
Yeah. So the thing about common sense economics is that it is for EFI specifically, but the thing is it allows the reader to understand the how can I say, like cultural, or like not cultural, historical and real world meanings of like different economic concepts. They actually give you historical examples of when things work and when things doesn't. For example, in the book itself, there's a section about which talks about 2008 crisis in United States, and then
Yeah.
it gives like a historical analysis as well as economic analysis. So it helps you to get a better grasp of like different economics concept, not only in terms of theoretical framework, but also in a practical framework.
Okay, Humoyun. That was like, yes, it was very interesting to hear about economics.
Hmm.
In International Economics Olympiad, as we also know, there is a section called business case where teams are assigned to solve a certain business case or problem, and they're given 24 hours, exactly 24 hours to solve that business case. How was your experience with that, and what kind of a style difference between how Uzbek teams solved problems versus teams from other countries did you see?
Uh, so for other countries, I think before the actual Olympiads, they prepared for it. I guess because like for us, we wanted to prepare, but we didn't know how to prepare. And at the international stage, we were kind of like I feel like we were kind of lazy when it comes to certain things compared to other participants who like stayed up all night solving different equations, doing like different applying different concepts, doing their presentation or whatever. But I feel like we didn't have that energy compared to other teams, and that's what held us back compared. And then even Russia team even carried out some kind of calculations on like Python or something. So they were actually like very professionals on that, but when it comes to us, we were even lazy to do like compares like the calculations on like ChatGPT. So I feel like for the next time, just create a team that's uh, willing to push each other's, and then just do not be lazy, I guess, because that's what our main style difference was, if it makes sense.
Wow. Yeah, okay. How would you, and how is the team selection process? Did you like the team selection process, and what comments would you give in the national stage to the team selection process itself?
I mean, for the first few years, the team selection was like based on individual results, and whoever top five was it, then would proceed to the next stage. But this year, they actually allowed us to make our own teams and then compete as a team. I think it was nice in terms of like chemistry, so that like people would not spend any unnecessary time on preparing or like socializing and getting to know each other, and would jump straight to the point. But at the same time, like that saying can actually lead to people kind of like not pushing each other enough because they're like kind of friends and they're close to each other. So it might put them in a comfort zone. Like for us, it kind of put us in a comfort zone. But I feel like uh, I cannot like blame anyone for this because like it's our like it was our third time preparing like conducting this IEO, so it's okay, like everyone experiments with different kind of styles. But I think from now on we should stick to individual. Um individual ranking, and then like teach those individuals how to perform good in before international stage. I think this will prevent people from getting into comfort zone like we did in business case.
Mm. Wow. Awesome. Awesome. And how much time did it take from you guys to prepare for the international? So nationals ended at the end of July, am I correct?
No. Nationals ended, I think, at the start of June. Yeah, in 31st May, I
Mm.
think that was the final stage of national exams. And before, like, after that, we were called to campus, like camp, Science Olympiad Center camp. I think like 15 days before the Olympiad to prepare for the Olympiad itself. And then there, I feel like the first kind of few days, our time was wasted because we didn't have any teacher for the first few days, and then after that, they started teaching us finance, which I think was a very good. Like there were two teachers who came from Westminster University in Tashkent. Like they were actually students, but they taught us basic financial concepts like really well, and that actually helped some of us to do significantly better in the financial part.
Mm. Mm. And is this camp was the only thing?
Uh, I guess yes, yes.
No. No. And what kind of questions in finance did you encounter? Were there more harder than economics questions, or were they easier? And how would you advise to other people
Mhm.
to approach those kinds of questions?
So my main weakness was in finance because the terminology was a bit like not so understandable for me, but I think I did okay. Like even though I didn't live up to my expectations, I did okay. But the saying most questions in finance were about uh percentages and interests. Like there's this thing uh about like so you earn percentage on your investment over a certain period of time, and then like you have to there are like different formulas for uh calculating the cumulative of that. I mean, there's like a one formula, but there are other formulas to help you find that, and there is some financial concepts as well. Like they're not formula based; they're just like finance based regarding like Bitcoin or like blockchain. So I would say like it's heavy on math. So as long as you know your math and you know like the basic formulas, it's just like very easy if you have that. But like unless if you do not like get caught in the terminology, it can actually like so terminology is kind of different, kind of hard there, but it's not hard to learn. I feel like that's something that can be learned easily.
Wow. And did you use any specific books to prepare for the finance section?
We didn't use any books. As I said, like there were two teachers who would come and they would teach us different formula, to teach us different concepts, and then we would just take notes, and they would send us some notes on Telegram, and then we basically prepared from that. Also, my economics teacher sent me a book about like corporate finance or like finance in general, which is about like 1,000 pages. But I don't think one has to read those 1,000 pages to be able to answer the finance questions. It's just like too much, I think.
Okay. Uh, nice, nice. And to the people who are listening and really want to take part in the Economics Olympiad,
Mhm.
um, how much of a preparation, let's say they don't study A levels, most of them are from public schools. How much time would it realistically require to be prepared for the at least national stage, which is, I believe, at the beginning of the May, right?
All right. So I think it's a really great effort. Uh, so excluding competition, like if you do not talk about competition right now, um, I think in order to finish different books, like first to go through APs and then to go through Bankip, it would take like I don't know, like 3 or 4 months. And then after that, I think one has like a very solid competitive chance after like 3 or 4 months of preparation. Uh, Also, if we include competition, you should keep in mind that your competitors are already doing that too. So after 3 or 4 months, that should not be the end of it. You should basically prepare more and more, like see past questions and read different books. If you're done with APs and Mankiv, read A levels or read IBs. Okay, so I feel like 3 or 4 months is realistic enough to be able to finish APs and Mankiv. But I feel like it shouldn't end there, considering that your competitors are also going to be preparing for the Olympiad. One should, after like 3 or 4 months, even though you might be able to finish those books, you should keep pushing yourself to your limits to be able to win that Olympiad. So realistically, I do not think there is like any specific time. Like, for example, I'm not here to say like study econ for 5 months and
Yeah,
you will guarantee to have like first place in the Olympiad. I feel like it just comes down to like your own effort. But overall, like 3 or 4 months are enough for someone who does not know about econ to be able to like get a solid ground in this science, to be able to like have a higher chances, to have a solid chance in the Olympiad. Because the thing is that your competitors are not gonna be like very like I don't know, like university students. They're gonna be preparing from the same material like you do, like A levels, APs, and Mankiev. So it's just a matter of who understands those books better and who understands the economics better. So I feel like that's the like time limit. It just depends on the person itself and depends on how fast can they finish those economics books, basically.
yeah, great. And I would also add, like, most people who are listening might be the high school students and from especially like from public schools. And I would note that the English is only held in English. Yeah, the Olympiad is only in English. So for that reason, the national curriculum books might not really address the kinds of topics that you need to learn to be well prepared for the Olympiad. For that
Mhm.
reason, yeah, it is all English, right? And
Yeah,
yeah, awesome.
okay. And yeah, thing about the Uzbek curriculum is that I do not think it has the depth that the other curriculum has. Um, so as far as I know, like I'm talking about purely from my experience. I don't know about other public schools, but at least here in Kashkadaria, so economics is usually uh, taught to students twice a week. I mean, once in 2 weeks, and
In
then
two
like
weeks.
once in 2 weeks, yes. And then they learn like something like very basic, like the qualities of entrepreneur, or I don't know, like how prices work. It's just like super shallow, I would say. And then they do not really teach economics. I think it's more like a basics of business than it is in economics. So I do not think that Uzbek curriculum is going to be enough. I don't feel like it's nowhere near enough for one to be able to excel in national stage.
And yeah, great. What was the funniest part in the Olympiad, though? We most people think that Olympiad students are nerds. They don't have fun, but like I'm pretty sure you had a lot of fun there too.
Um, well, so yeah, we had a great fun. First of all, in Greece, the food was very good, and also in Kazakhstan, like there you will not have any problems regarding food. It's just you can have as much as you want, and it's not like cheap food. It's just like very great, usually national food that they provide you, and that's the most fun part. And then in Kazakhstan, for a boot camp, and so if you pass on to like national international stage as an Uzbek, you go to boot camp. I think this year it's gonna be in Azerbaijan, but I'm not sure. But last year it was in Kazakhstan, Almaty. I think that was super fun. Like you're not preparing for any Olympics. You're just there to like I don't know, just to be there. They prepare you for Olympiads, but you're not actually taking part in Olympiad. So you do not have any responsibility. You're just there to learn, and then take a tour across the city. You just get to see a lot of parts of the city, and then you get to meet a lot of friends from other countries. And I think we have established a very great bonds with other Central Asian economic students as well from Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. We used to play games all night, like Truth or Dare, and then we used to play this game called Spy, and we used to make a lot of noise. And then like dorm life is something that is gonna be in your memories forever because we were there for like 1 week, and that 1 week felt like a month because of how much happened. And in Greece, we actually had a lot of fun as well. We went to swimming like in the place where Olympiad is held. There's a swimming pool, so you can go there and like take a quick swim, I guess. And in like Athens, if you go to Athens, there are a lot of freaky stuff. Like there are so Greek people are for some reason so obsessed with reproductive organs of males, and then they make uh, statues, they make I don't know t-shirts, they make keychains out of it. It's just everywhere. You cannot avoid that. It's just like a one funny thing about the trip. It's just if there's say like sometimes there was like a wooden there was one of them made from wood, and it was like I don't know 1 meters high. And it's like in the center of the market. That's crazy. I feel like that was the most like crazy and fun part of the whole Olympiad thing.
Uh, so you got to learn about the culture more than you do learn the economics.
Sure. Yeah,
So
I guess so.
that's awesome. Okay, Humayun. So you had a very great experience in the International Economics Olympiad and in Economics Olympiad in general. And what are your plans for the future, really? Who do you see yourself in the future and what you will be doing, essentially?
Yeah, I feel like I have learned fairly a lot of subfields within the economics, and I feel like the most that resonates with me is political philosophy and economics. It's just basically applying economics to politics. I feel like that's the what resonates with me more because um, Uzbekistan has long been under the communist rule, and then now we're slowly transforming to democracy. And I feel like I can bring some of this knowledge back to Uzbekistan if I like pursue this further. I want to learn about democracy and then democratic economics and then applying economics to different kind of policy makings and how I can apply this to back in Uzbekistan so that this transformation to democracy can be accelerated, basically.
Mm. And are there any uh, specific maybe issues that you're mostly like concerned about in Uzbekistan?
Yeah, sure. One of the issues that have been, really affecting me is democracy just being on paper and not in the real world. Uh, so I have been like very huge proponent of democracy, and I know democracy is not like the perfect political, uh, political
System.
system to begin with. Yes, but even though I feel like democracy is better than just killing people for having opinions. So, and most of the time it's just like the systematic view of because we were under communism and before that we had kingdom-like structures in Uzbekistan. Those who dared to speak against those in power were murdered, even though like as recent as in 2005, like we all know what happened in as Andijan. So I feel like that democracy mindset should be brought into Uzbek culture. And then that could start us developing as a nation, a lot of politicians are supporting this idea of New Uzbekistan. And in my opinion, if we cannot bring this democratic mindset to our people and that not only people, but also to the government, the process will be more painful. And then uh, there was one reporter who came to Uzbekistan in 1990s or something, and then he asked people that was like our very first years of independence from Soviet Union, and then he asked people what do they understand by democracy, and then people were like, "Oh, bigger TV, my own cars." So they were basically talking about a very basic concept of capitalism and mistaking it for democracy. And over time, people have actually started to realize what is it to be a democratic country, and like people are actually starting to demand their rights compared to what it was like decades ago. And as when it happens, as a government should not punish people to for expressing their opinion. And then in our Uzbek culture, have you heard this saying all called "I don't want to be involved in politics, but this
Yeah.
is this," like
Yeah.
no, they say. But
Yeah.
actually, as a democratic country, not only you should not fear it, but actually you should be encouraged to talk about politics because it is affecting people's lives. So why cannot people freely talk about that? I feel like that is something that affected me since like I don't know, since let's say grade 9 when I started doing not so legal things in school, and they tried to kind of like expel me and stuff. Yeah, I feel like that's like something that should
Yeah.
be brought into Uzbekistan because it has become systematic at this point, and someone should do something about it. I'm not saying like I will be the ultimate savior of Uzbekistan or anything. I just want to be like this part of change of Uzbekistan, which is going towards more democratic future. I want to be one of those people who are kind of accelerating that process, basically.
Yeah. And to conclude our podcast, Humayun, with you, what are your final thoughts? And what would you really want to tell to the audience?
Okay. First of all, I felt very honored because of the fact that you called me to this podcast to share my thoughts on different things. I felt very welcome here. I'm gonna say thank you for that. And other than that, my final thoughts for viewers would be: do not study economics for the sake of Olympiads. Like Olympiads should not be the end goal, but Olympiads should be part of journey. Uh, and whenever you feel like you're failing, like your economics classes or like your economics Olympiad, that should not be the end of your economics journey. I feel like uh, you should be able to dream and have ambition for greater things in the world and not just limit yourself to one like kind of Olympiad because there's so much more to this world uh, than Olympiads. Yeah, that's my final thoughts.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Humayun, for attending our podcast. We're very honored to have you here, and we wish the greatest luck in your future endeavors.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Goodbye.
Bye.